daughter Melissa, Joan Rivers, died this afternoon in New York City. The legendary Larry King is on the line with us, former host on CNN and now all over the place and still kicking it himself. Larry, it's unbelievable that a life like this could end in this way.
Yeah, it's so sad. You know, Shepard, I've known her for 45 years. I've been at her home. I just saw her a couple of weeks ago at a restaurant here in L.A. at Craig. She was bouncing on tables and hopping around. She never acted her age or looked her age. She was very, very funny, but a great mother and a great grandmother, and very close to her family, and a great show business person. As I said, we'll never see her likes again. And I never took, you should never have been hurt by anything Joan Rivers said, because she took no prisoner, Shepard. The world was her oyster, and she devoured it. And she led such a long life with, of course, the great tragedy of the suicide of her husband, Edgar, which she took very badly and took it with anger. The only time I ever saw her angry was at Edgar's killing himself. She did not take that well. But she was a glorious woman. I really don't know a lot.
Larry, I was talking to Liz Smith just a few minutes ago about Joan Rivers, and she said that when Johnny Carson ended the relationship, that it was a very difficult thing for her, but that Joan Rivers was able to recover from that because Joan Rivers had a person inside her, as Liz Smith put it, that Johnny Carson did not. How difficult was that time for her?
Well, here's what the tragedy was. Tragedy may be a large word. Joan appeared many times with Johnny Carson and pinch hit for him many times. And he adored her and sort of regarded himself as her mentor in a sense. And when she took the job at Fox to go on against him, he took that very personally. Wouldn't take a call from her, never spoke to her again the rest of his life. She took that hard because she thought that he should have wanted her to be a success, and that she didn't regard that she'd be a great competitor of his. The Tonight Show was such a locked-in thing at Fox, which knew at the late-night game. So she thought she was very shocked. I think Johnny felt that she owed him a call before she signed the contract. I mean, what could he have said if she said, "I got this big break, would you say I shouldn't take it?" Of course he would have said yes, but I think he took it. So there's the two people on opposite sides of a spectrum here. One saying, boy, he should be so happy that I got this job. And he's saying, why didn't she call me first? Well, and they never spoke again.
You mentioned the Fox program. That program came and went in the year 1986. And Joan said at the time that she believed the suicide of her husband, Edgar, would rest in large part, at least, on the failure of that program, that he took it so hard that he didn't feel like he could go on. That's what she said.
Yeah, she felt that in part. You never know what's in a suicide person's mind. I don't know if Edgar ever left a note. She told me that she never forgave Edgar. I don't know how you react to suicide. There's such two great thoughts on it. Is it guts or is it chicken? I think it's guts. She thinks that he escaped from life and he deserted his daughter and his wife, and for reasons she hadn't. She blamed it, I think, on the breakup of the Fox show. I doubt that a man would kill. I personally doubt a man would kill himself over the loss of a television show when you have a wife who's very funny and you're a successful producer and you got a beautiful daughter. That never jived with me, but that's what Joan. It happened around the same time, so she took that as the reason, I think.
Larry, at the time, she'd been on television, thanks in large part at the beginning to Johnny Carson, for more than 20 years. She started a program of her own. It came and went and failed very quickly. Then her husband killed himself. She stepped out of the limelight, went on a cruise, and then did something that I don't think anybody at the time thought was possible, and maybe is hard to even imagine. She recreated herself and has spent 30 more years on television recreating herself every few years.
She sure did. She used plastic surgery. She used everything at her disposal.
She did.
But she's a trooper. You know, that's a good word to describe her, a trooper. She came back from depths of sadness to come right back. She went in cat mold, and she was very funny. And as I said, she spared no one, so I don't think you could really get angry at her. Of course, there's no one she wouldn't hit, and she was caustic. She was great at roasts. They roasted her. extraordinary. And you're right. She had two lives and lived them both. Lived strong and lived right to 81 years old. She was a terrific mother, a great grandmother, very close to her grandson, named Edgar, by the way. And
there are a lot of comedians who reach a certain age and they still appeal to people of that age group and maybe the generation before. Betty White, an exception to that rule. I think Joan Rivers may be an even more notable one, in that Joan Rivers didn't continue to pick at, if you will, or denigrate, if you will, people of her own age. She's taken shots at Justin Bieber as recently as the last year and taking them hard. She understood today's young people, and that's what you have to do to be successful.
She did, and if you saw her crowds, they were a great mix of young to old.
How'd she do that?
Because she had a great following, and you know, Shepard, if you're funny, you're funny. And if you can relate, you can relate. And if she knew her audience, and her audience was wide, she was a scrapper. Look, she did her shows on the shopping network. She sold merchandise. I mean, there's nothing she didn't do. She had the red carpet. She made that famous. All the red carpet imitators are imitators of Joan. She cut her own swath through the world of show business. We won't see her likes again. She was an incredible lady.
Larry, over the last, half hour and before, I've been reading the transcript of an interview you did with her on CNN on May the 10th of 2002. The business of Botox, what is it? And one of the quotes that's getting a lot of play today is, it stops the lines. If you put too much in, you look like Cher. You look like you're dead. The whole world would have argued she put too much in, but somehow for Joan Rivers it seemed to work.
That's right, and she would make fun of herself. That was the beauty of Joan. In addition to taking no prisoners, she was her own prisoner. So, as well as given.
Larry King, a friend of Joan Rivers for 45 years in Live. Larry, great to talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Same here, babe. Thank you.
I'll show you fear. That's fear. If my book ever looked like this, it would mean that nobody wants me and that everything I ever tried to do in life didn't work. Nobody cared and I've been totally forgotten.
This program is brought to you by Purina, your